What's up, my good peoples? Welcome to the Be Transformed podcast, where we're talking about ideas that stimulate wholesome thinking into identity, purpose, vision, and action. I am James Anderson, and with me is Logan Eaton, Carolyn Anderson, and Juliana, my good homeboys and homegirls. What is happening?
Oh, the mic has moved to me. Hello, good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Oh, yeah, we're sharing mics, sharing seats,
I was just talking about how I needed a snack.
and sharing blocks of cheese.
Oh, definitely. Or shredded cheese.
So what would be better to bring? Shredded? The
Like-
Velveeta block
Are you going to...
or sliced?
I mean, would you bring like a big straw with the shredded cheese so it didn't
Spoon,
get
a
all
ladle.
over the
No.
place?
Chopsticks, maybe.
You've seen the little cheese cubes.
With chopsticks with the shredded cheese.
Yeah, it's kind of like noodles. Some of it's kind of like noodles,
Tiny
like those Asian noodles.
Like really long shredded pieces of cheese?
No,
Are you talking about string cheese?
no, just
You're
the
talking about
shredded-
goat cheese.
the thick shredded, not the thin
Llama
It's not long.
cheese?
sliced.
They're like little.
Llama cheese?
No.
No, the thick shredded cheese.
Elephant,
not the,
elephant cheese. Do elephants make cheese?
I might have to take that one away.
Do you know the difference between the thick slice and the thin slice shredded cheese?
Between an
There's the
elephant and a
finely
llama?
shredded.
Yes.
Yes, the
Yes.
finely shredded.
It's thinner.
You can eat those with chopsticks.
The Mexican blend?
Oh.
Yeah, that is good.
Mozzarella's
That's
the
good.
best.
You get more for your buck on the Mexican blend. You get
That's fair.
You get variety. But you get more per pound with the Velveeta block.
Get a little stomach ache.
When was the last
That one.
time you had a Velveeta block?
When's the last time you cracked that baby open and just started just biting?
My
on it?
mom,
Up and
before my
down.
mom knew that it was terrible, that's what we ate like when we were younger.
Like slices of Velveeta?
No, like you'd cook
Like
with it.
slices
like you'd
of
make
lard?
recipes.
What is
like
that?
a casserole. We do
Queso.
use lard. We use lard.
Oh.
You spoonfuls.
I'm serious. No. When you
Hey, this
butcher
stuff's really sticky.
when you butcher pigs, you can have a choice of get the lard or not. You can get the lard from the butcher or not. And we
From the
always get the
pig.
lard.
That's all.
And we cook with it. And it's lard that we raise. It's our lard.
You have little baby lards?
No, when we butcher a pig, we keep the lard and we cook with it. Like we've got jars and jugs of it at home.
You call your lard a pig?
No, I call the pig Ploppy.
Learning new things.
Ploppy? Or
Yeah, that was
floppy?
one of our pigs. That's what I called it.
I
Floppy.
don't think you're supposed to name them if you're then going to eat them. Right? Isn't
Well,
that a
I can
thing?
handle it. I'm not 5 anymore.
That's because you don't actually butcher them.
We did one
You
time.
did one
it was
time?
Terrible.
It was
amazing?
It was terrible. Yeah, we tied it to a post, shot it, and then we had to skin it, burn all the
I
hair
would
off and everything.
Mm,
It was not a good experience,
Mm-mm.
but I still ate it.
that makes you want to curl up with a good block
That
of
makes you
Velveeta.
want to get some Velveeta. you have
The
tell me
Velveeta.
you have not put a block of that in the microwave and melted it down.
I can't say
Like
I have.
over like a bowl of chips or something.
Yeah, like made
Makes
a
good
queso.
queso.
or something.
Yes,
Yeah.
that is a thing.
I
I'm
gotta
with
get
you.
the chili, I've never
yes.
done it, but I
The
just thought you
little
might have.
peppers.
I've never done it.
You talked about the casseroles.
Well, yeah, we never had the luxury of quesadilla dip.
Eat your dang
We weren't-
quesadilla.
We weren't allowed to have tortilla chips. in our house.
Or Mexican blend cheese for that matter.
Yeah. We didn't buy like actual shredded cheese until like the 2000s.
That's because shredded cheese
Well,
did
it
not
wasn't really a
exist at the
thing.
store, I don't think.
Really? I probably not.
What existed was the hand shredder, where you'd grind
the-
your... Where'd you,
Wow,
you-
still
Cheese
got one of
grater.
those?
yeah.
Is there an automatic one now?
What?
No.
It's called your kids.
Yeah, I think that's
Oh,
what I
you don't
thought.
have
Yeah, I
it,
didn't. You sounded like it was like some ancient tool, ancient artifact, the cheese grater.
I still
It
have
is. We have one.
One. I do too.
We
I
don't
still
use
use
it.
It's ancient.
Actually, I don't. I buy shredded. I don't even use mine.
Missing out.
Why buy a block when you can buy it shredded?
Yeah, saves time and money.
And goats.
And your time is money. Buy it shredded. I don't know why that's funny. That's a serious statistic.
Velveeta?
Yeah, shred it Or buy it
Shredded?
shredded instead
Can
of
you
shredding
shred
it.
Velveeta?
Yeah, you probably can't.
I don't think so. It's a little slick.
So okay, what did you guys do today or eat today? I talked about my life.
I mean, our 8-year-old did ask to shred something with the grater. I'm not kidding. He got it out,
Cheese?
and well, I think he wanted to shred chocolate to save for later for ice cream sundaes. He was planning ahead.
Perfection.
But yeah,
That is not as weird as it sounds.
the shredder, the grater. What is it called? Grater.
I think it's a grater.
It
So
did come
cheese
up.
grater?
The cheese
Yeah,
cutter.
it did come up in natural conversation.
Yeah.
I didn't let him do it though.
I might go try that. I might go to buy some Hershey's and shred it at home just to see.
Just watch your fingertips.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, you got to get that baking chocolate, like the bricks.
Mm.
What? What? Or you could
Like a
just,
Hershey's bar?
You could just get frosting.
No, you can
Yeah,
buy
that's
like
true.
melting
just-
chocolate. And
That's
you can
what I'm
just-
talking
It's like
about.
It's like a brick.
of
Oh
chocolate.
my gosh.
Yeah,
No
you could
way.
make a house out of it too.
Like
No
it's thick. Like it's
It's-
like a
it's
Hershey's bar but
pretty
thicker.
like-
Yeah, ish.
Yeah. It depends.
Why
Think
have
of
I
an
never-
ice
why have I
cube
never-
tray.
What
Yeah,
aisle is that
kinda
in?
like
They're
that.
kind of
Oh, really?
In the baking aisle.
Aisle
I've never
6 in
seen-
Aldi.
Aldi does
in the
not
baking
carry
section.
that.
Actually,
No,
They do.
don't.
They definitely do. I've gotten it before.
What do you know? Oh my God, Mr. Aldi doesn't
Oh
even
my
know.
gosh.
Doesn't even know.
I have stocked those shelves and stolen so many of their boxes. I would know what's in there. I just bought a generic vacuum cleaner off of the that one aisle that's got all the miscellaneous.
Did you really?
Oh.
No, I didn't.
You thought about it though.
I did.
Then you got too cheap.
I always think about buying stuff on that aisle, but I'm like,
a dangerous
I don't
aisle.
know. Yeah, this might break.
Vacuum, Velveeta block. It's priorities. It really just comes down to priorities.
does Aldi actually have the Velveeta block? Have you looked for that?
They probably have their own, like
they
Aldi
might
brand.
not. They just have blocks.
Friendly
think they-
Farms.
They just don't have the Velveeta. They don't.
Plastic block.
I think Velveeta is plastic. I think that's why they don't carry it.
Yeah. There was this butter in Australia, and I don't know where somebody came up with this, but they're like it was like one molecule away from being plastic.
I think that's margarine. Seriously, I think that's margarine.
Probably.
I think you're onto something there. I heard something. Your lard is probably better for you than
I
all
know it
margarine.
is. I know it is.
That is not even a question.
We have tubs of lard. If you want some lard, I can get you lard in a tub. It's good to cook with.
Named Floppy. Poppy.
Ploppy.
Ploppy.
Floppy.
Yeah. I've told you about that pig. That pig weighed so much that it couldn't stand up.
That was the guy you fed like cakes to.
Yeah, he had the life. He had the life. All he had to do was lay there and just get cakes thrown at him.
He had to lay there because he couldn't stand up.
That's true. Yeah, it wasn't his choice to be there.
His belly was so
No.
big it was longer than his legs.
Yeah, that is true. So besides shredding some chocolate, what else did you guys do today?
Oh, I don't know. Yeah, but
Anything?
Juliana's got some stuff cooking.
Oh, I do have some stuff cooking.
What's cooking?
Did you
What's
leave
cooking?
the oven on?
No, I didn't. Thankfully, I did not. I hope not. I might have.
Melting that.
It's never good to
Shredded
come back
cheese.
home and see your oven smoking.
Maurice would do that.
I've been there 4 times.
Oh man, yeah.
So Juliana, you started a Bible study at BGSU.
I sure did. We started up a new Bible study for fitness enthusiasts at the rec. So we meet at the rec center, which is a bonus. But through my story and just the experiences I've had throughout college, as well as my life, that's been a big part of my story. And so thought that those students were not quite being targeted well at our school. And so designed a group last year. And this is our first full year starting that up. And so it's been really neat just to meet the students and learn more about them and how to serve them best.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Bam. Yeah. So you did do some last year.
We did a trial. We did a 2-week trial just to kind of see if we would actually get students, and if people would be interested in it. And we prayed for 10 people to come and got about 50 the first night. So it was a big answered prayer for that. But yeah,
Nice.
we've been having a lot of new students come in, and so it's been really cool.
Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah, and this year you average around 40. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, around 30, 40. It depends on the night, but
Yeah.
it's been really neat to see new faces, and as well as a lot of leaders throughout H2O. They've been coming, which is neat. So it's a wide variety of students.
Yeah. That's awesome. That's real awesome. Nice.
Yeah, any kind of athlete though. Do you notice like a discipline difference or like a like a mindset difference when you're meeting with athletes than maybe just other people? I know a
Mhm.
lot of athletes that are just so mentally focused and
Yeah.
just such a mental aspect of being an athlete. Like, do you notice that? Do you guys talk
Mhm.
about that?
Yeah, we talk.
Yeah.
We plan on talking about that a little bit more this year. But it's been really cool because a lot of them just come up and they're so interested on what that next step looks like or how they
Yeah.
can grow. And it's just neat because a lot of times, like within training and stuff like that, it's like, what is that next thing I can do to be better? And so
Mhm.
you can really see that discipline aspect, which is really neat, just because they understand training and growth.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so that
Repetition.
exactly that they can bring into their faith, which is really neat.
Yeah.
And so they're definitely a disciplined group and really just looking for kind of like that next step of how they
Yeah.
can grow, how they can continue to even just be stretched in their faith and be challenged.
Yeah. Do you guys actually do like exercises while you're or like after or before?
Yeah.
Really?
So
Wow. That's
sometimes we'll have nights where we'll just do group workouts, which is super fun, where we just kind of get together and do stuff. Sometimes we'll go before or after group. I
Really?
always try to let people know, like, hey, if you're looking for somebody to work out with, or you need help, or
Awesome.
you want just kind of guidance on how to do that.
Yeah.
I enjoy doing that, and so it's been super fun just kind of coaching some people through that. But
Really
we try
neat.
to incorporate some fun like games and
Yeah,
stuff just
yeah.
to get that going. But
Yeah.
it is mainly just like a Bible study focused.
Yeah.
And we talk a lot about like some of the struggles that students would face within that community, like body image and
Oh, sure.
even just like our speech that we're talking about ourselves, watching our words, and even just like what it looks like to be disciplined in our faith.
Mhm.
And so, yeah, it's really neat just being able to make those connections.
Yeah, totally. Do you guys have like some non-athletes that are just interested in fitness? Coming
Yeah,
too?
so we're mostly just a fitness group.
Oh, sure.
We have another Bible study for like that's specifically for our athletes, but we like to do stuff together sometimes. But most of our students are kind of all on their own journey within fitness. So we have a student who's training for American Ninja Warrior. He's
Wow.
crazy. It's so fun having him. And then we have people that are just starting to kind of get into fitness and really
Yeah.
trying to learn how to be healthy. And so it's really
Yeah.
neat just to be able to come together and see like how everyone has that one goal of growing in
Right.
their physical fitness and their health. And so,
Right.
yeah, it's really fun.
Yeah, that is awesome. I just had the image of like taping the Bible to the bench press bar and like trying to read it.
That would be fun.
As it's
Maybe that's
coming
not
and
what you
going.
guys do.
Sometimes we have fun challenges and we'll do crazy games. It's
Nice.
it's a very energetic group. Like, it's just like, I don't know.
That seems
like
cool.
the
That
fun
is
little
really cool.
gym monkeys.
Yeah. Nice.
The old gym monkeys. Yeah. Oh, sweet. Well, tonight, yeah, I thought we'd talk a little bit about the expectation of greatness. I was listening to this podcast by Chris Valton, who was talking about this. And, yeah, he was just talking about how there's some people who kind of have an expectation of greatness on them, right? Like, depending on maybe where they've been, where they're going, or maybe what their last name is, right? So if you get some kind of people who go to prestigious colleges such as, Harvard or Yale, or name whatever college you like. And there's this expectation that the people who go to these schools would go on to become lawyers or judges or senators, get into Congress, somehow serve the public, and likewise, people who have, with the last names like Kennedy or the Bushes or, these kind of more like prestigious families, if you will, there's kind of like this expectation that the people in this family line would go on to do great things, and they wouldn't just live a life for themselves, but they would somehow serve the public, serve their nation, serve their country, serve the people in it. And and the idea is like there's an expectation of greatness like on the life of the people of the kingdom of heaven. Like there's an expectation in heaven that the people who belong to it would use their life and develop it to the point that the influence of the kingdom of heaven would overtake everything else. And it's interesting to think about these people and that expectation, and kind of like what creates that expectation, and how do people then really get into a life that then is like it's focused on serving the public. It's they go to events and they do different things and they hang out with groups of people who are all doing similar things, who are all trying to have an impact and somehow solve some kind of problem. And what do you guys think about that in terms of the expectation of greatness, and when you think about ourselves and this world and all that mayhem?
Yeah, I think I think about like the family name. I was just kind of thinking about like usually it's pretty specific what you do. Like if you have the last name as Kennedy or maybe something like that, it's like you're gonna go into politics and you're gonna be great at it. Or if maybe your last name is Campbell's and it's like you're gonna go into soup or something.
The canning industry.
Yeah, the manufacturing soup or something. But you like
cheese.
it's if your last name is Velveeta,
Yeah.
you're gonna go into the cheese industry.
Liquid gold.
But usually it's like specific what the expectation of greatness is coming in from a family. So I just think like when you talked about like the kingdom of heaven, like that's never like like a broad thing that's confusing. It's never supposed to be confusing or broad or vague. It's pretty specific. Like that expectation of greatness is whatever you do, you're gonna do your best at it. It's gonna influence people. It's gonna help change the world. It's gonna just make things a better place. So it's always specific. Like I think society kind of puts this expectation, maybe not of greatness, but puts an expectation on you that's vague and it's broad and it's based on like fear. Like if you don't become a professional, you're going to live in scarcity and you're never going to do anything great. So it's like when we talk about like great expectation of greatness, there's got to be a specificity of it or specificity of it.
That's a real thing.
But it's got to be specific and it's got to be not fear-based. So like some people might hear like, oh, expectation of greatness. Oh my gosh, what do I got to do? What do I got to do? What do I got to study? Should I go to school or not? But it's like it's never fear-based. Like society puts that fear-based expectation, not so much of greatness, but like just an expectation of like, you better go to college and become a professional or you're going to live in scarcity and lack your whole life. And so then people freak out. They don't know what to study. And then they get into this cycle of like, okay, I don't really feel like I'm pursuing greatness in anything. So yeah, I just think it's got to be specific and it's got to not be fear-based. Like it's not confusing. It's not vague. But that's kind of what I thought though.
Yeah. Yeah, that expectation, it's not like a performance based in the sense of like, oh, what will people think, or motivated out of some kind of weirdness. It's more motivated out of this high level of responsibility of what you actually have the capabilities of doing.
Mm-hmm.
And then it becomes like Grant Cardone talks about, it becomes an ethical reality of like, if I'm being unethical if I don't live up to my full potential, if I don't realize what's in there, if I don't like cultivate these dreams and turn them into reality, if these things that I think about nonstop and I don't, if I neglect them or overlook them or just straight up ignore them, that I won't be living up to the expectation. I won't be living up to my full potential or capacity, right? Like it's based off of responsibility, not off of what will other people think or just some outward pressure.
And I think too, like if you go back to just thinking about the kingdom as a whole, like remembering that we are part of God's family. And with that, like we can look throughout the Bible and it shows us these are the things that God has given us to do. And like we are so unique because God created us in his image. He created us to reflect him and to be an image of him on this earth. And so like just thinking about how like we can come onto this earth and love and serve those people, and like how that is our expectation. Like that is what God has designed us to do. And so just kind of thinking about what does that look like in your life, and like how can we be doing that best, and even like going back to the Great Commission of just going out to the world and just loving on others, serving them and helping them find Jesus. Like that is our job. That is what we were designed to do. And so just going back to the root of all of it, of why we are here, why we are designed to do what we do.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, we have the opportunity to kind of set the example, and people see that, and I think you stand out when you're pursuing those things. Like you stand out when you're pursuing greatness, and something's different about you, especially in a society or in a world that wants to just kind of stay, at a certain level, or just be content with, or I don't know, just in a world where people don't want to take accountability or don't want to face that responsibility they have to go do something great or be, max out their capacity. But so you stand out, you set the example, I think.
And I think that's like the coolest thing is that like we are called to stand out. We are called to be unique and to do those things for Christ. We're called to go do these crazy things, go live on mission. And like, that's not something that you see every day. And it's cool that we can set that example of this is what God calls us to do, and we're going to follow him, whether or not it's something small or something out of this world. And so it's crazy that we have that opportunity to serve a God who just gives us these opportunities and just allows us to follow him and to trust him through them. And so I think it's just cool that we can be that example for somebody, and they might see that and be like, oh, I want to do that too. Like, how can I do that? So then we can be even leading them into a faith and helping them see how they can do that too.
Yeah,
Totally.
yeah, for sure. What do you think, Caroline?
The mic has moved. It's my turn.
Pass the mic.
I'm on the spot now. Yeah.
Were you zoned out?
I wasn't zoned out. I was listening. Yeah, I don't know that I have a thought.
No more.
Trying to stir one up here, but it's evading me.
Okay.
Anyway.
Go ahead and take that back.
What would Mr. Belvita say to his son?
Oh man, no, it's amazing. Yeah, I think there's a couple things that just I can think about in the moment that creates this environment of the expectation of greatness. And one, there's a standard, right? There's a standard, kind of like you were talking about, Logan. There's a standard of like even like we were talking about with the name. It's like, this is our name. This is like what we do. Our family gets into this kind of genre, this kind of business and whatever, and we affect some kind of change. So there's a standard, but there's a standard of a high responsibility level, and the fact that like sometimes you can get into like abundance or affluence or whatever, but it's like affluence, influence, and you think, okay, so from this place of abundance, we have a responsibility not to just sit here and do nothing, but we have the responsibility to use what we have, to increase what we have, and then use it to serve the purpose of our life. And so there's that standard that's set. And then with that set standard, then there's the discipline and the focus, right? So instead of wasting time, you have to use that time to grow in knowledge, to grow in understanding, to grow in ability and skill. You need to go to, you just think about whatever. I mean, these different groups, these different seminars, these different, I don't know, in my mind when I'm thinking about like all this affluence, I'm thinking about like charity balls and whatever kind of stuff these people get into. It's like you go there because you need to mix with other people who have that same high standard of responsibility. You have to mix with these people who have these crazy ideas, right? That aren't limited by anything, who don't think in terms of limitations. They think of, is it worth it? And if it's worth it, if it's viable, if it can solve a problem, then we're going to get into it, right? So that environment of the expectation of greatness first has a standard of like, this is what we do with our lives. Then there's the discipline of growing in your ability to then live that out. And then there's the actually applying that, as well as like continuing to mix with other people who are doing it, but then also to straight up just get into it. So, yeah, kind of like you were talking about, you look at the Genesis, right? And God said, when God made Adam and Eve, or God made Adam, he said, he blessed them and said, have dominion, right? Be fruitful and multiply, fill the earth and subdue it, right? So be fruitful, we're talking about producing things of value. Multiply and fill the earth, we're talking about making babies, as well as increasing essentially what was in the garden, so that it would spill over and into the rest of the world, right? So then that word subdue, right? Be fruitful, multiply, fill the earth, and subdue it. Subdue it means to bring into bondage, to bring into conformity. So we're talking about creating the rest of the world to look like the Garden of Eden. And that was the mandate and the mission and the purpose of mankind that God gave them, right? And so Jesus, right, reestablishing and kind of bringing back to the original, Jesus says, go into all the world and make disciples of nations, right? Baptizing them in the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, and teaching them to obey everything I've commanded you. So similarly, right, we have a standard: increase, create things of value, multiply, fill the earth, go into all the world, and cause it to be conformed to me, right? He says, make disciples of nations. The disciple is a student, it's a learner, right? Just exactly like what you're talking about, where it's like you start getting into these things and everybody's like, oh crap. It's like because what you're doing is function, and that function speaks to the potential that's inside of them. And they're like, freak, I could do that too. And it's like, yes, you could, right? That's that learner. Then it's like, oh, freak, what else, tell me more kind of concept. But it's like, it's these things, right? Going into the world. Jesus said it like this, right? He said, in terms of like, what do you do and how do you serve it? Jesus said, as you go, heal the sick, raise the dead, cleanse the leper, and cast out the demons, right? And then tell them that the kingdom of heaven came upon them. So that's like the Red Cross showing up to a disaster relief, being like, hey, we got food, we got clothes, we got blankets. Oh, and by the way, we're the Red Cross, right? So you go out there, you solve some problems. Like you cause people to taste and see the function of the kingdom, the influence, the culture, the extravagance of the kingdom of heaven. And then you're like, hey, just so you know, that's the kingdom. And people are like, oh, that's delicious.
Wow. It's like Velveeta.
That is like the best Velveeta I have ever had.
I've got a thought now. Move the mic back over for something for real. I was thinking about just this concept of like, we weren't just created to survive. And I feel like there's this tendency to kind of that inward, like get the resources to really just survive is the word that keeps coming to my mind, instead of thrive, which is, when you are seeking out all that God has for you, and you really are living a life on purpose, which is what we're all about here at BT. But just the concept that you know, our life is not made to look like, okay, I'm just getting through the day. I'm just, you know, it's like we are here for a purpose. And that's beyond just like, I mean, yes, we all have different responsibilities in our life that, you know, take time, but just that the ultimate goal of everything that you're doing is on purpose beyond just like, I'm lacking the example, but, I'm just thinking about my own life, even just like taking care of the kids and keeping up with the house. And it's like, but my goal is not just to survive the day and then, okay, tomorrow's a new day. We're going to start it all over again. But this concept that our life has purpose, and it's this greater purpose, this expectation of greatness that looks like in your everyday life, in the things that you have your gifts and callings in. I mean, even if it's just the season where you are a mom and you're out in the community with your kids, and you can be displaying the kingdom in the way that you are a mom with your kids, or in your area of expertise, that whether you're in business, whether you're in school, that whatever you're at, whatever you're doing, that you are displaying like the greatness of God in your season of life, and as you're pursuing your purpose, and what, you know, really those deep down gifts that are inside of you that God put there, that we're, you know, pulling out, that you're going to live out to your fullest potential.
Yeah, I think it's so cool that like God created all of us with those unique gifts, with those unique passions, so that we can gravitate towards those people, because we all have things we enjoy in life, similar to Lifted. Like I enjoy fitness. And so coming together with those people, learning together and growing together, that is a way of bringing people in and showing them who God is. But also I think it's cool, similar to what you were talking about, of just, we're called not only to just learn and grow ourselves, but we're called to do that for others and to help them and to love them. I mean, it says in the Bible, love God and love others. And so how are we doing that in our life? How are we serving the people around us and bringing them in as well?
Yeah, that's good. It takes that beyond the survival to the thrive. You know, it takes it from the inward focus to the really outward. Like you're taking care of yourself in order that
we can.
Exactly. Yeah,
absolutely. And I think like that's something that a lot of the world doesn't do, is a lot of our focus is, how can I be helping myself? How can I be benefiting for me? But I think it's cool in our faith that we take that focus away and we say, how can we be helping and loving others and showing them Christ through that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, making others great. You know, that your expectation of greatness is to display the kingdom so that other people can do that too, instead of maybe when it's of this world or of, you know, our culture, would be just to become great so that you can live a comfortable life.
Right. Absolutely. And even thinking of just like those disciples that make disciples of, we are here, we have been built up through Christ so that we can pour into another person who hopefully pours into another person. And that's how we create that community, is when we love those people and when we're welcoming them in and teaching them all that God has taught us, so that they can do the same, so that they can be unique, so that they can show them Christ through that, which is just, it's awesome. It's crazy that we have that opportunity and that gift just to serve people in that way.
Yeah, I was thinking about an interesting thought the other day. It's probably, you guys think about this all the time too, but I was thinking about embassies. Yeah.
Can you use it in a sentence?
What is that word?
I guess I'm thinking like
an embassy, yeah. So let's just pretend if you were in France, you could go to an American embassy.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Yeah, that kind of an embassy.
Like an assembly.
No. It's probably more like Velveeta. Yeah, an assembly of your countrymen in a foreign country.
Is an embassy.
Embassy.
Okay.
Embassy.
All right.
Yeah.
I didn't pay attention in math or science or
social
geography.
One of them.
But yeah, so and it's what's it called?
Embassy.
I was gonna say assembly.
Now we're all confused.
An embassy, yes, an embassy bam, an embassy there. Interesting, right? So you could go to a foreign country. Let's just pretend we went to France, and you could go to an American embassy. Now, as soon as you step onto that American embassy, you step onto American soil. When you step onto that American soil, you step into the rights and privileges of that government. That government is working in that little building that's like you're in like a little slice of America, even though you're in a foreign country. Now, like I said, right, there's rights and privileges that you have inside of your own country of origin, country that you're a citizen in. Well, I was thinking about the same, right? Jesus said the kingdom of heaven, it's in you. Well, so it's like you become like the embassy of the kingdom of heaven, right? So in that embassy, in that temple, in you, right, is the culture of the kingdom of heaven. And to the degree that your mind is continually being renewed is to the degree of like the release of the power and culture of the kingdom. But we become that embassy, if you will, where like we become the soil of the kingdom of heaven. And so, but that's wherever you are, right? In this foreign country that we call the world, which just is the Lord's and the fullness thereof. But you become the embassy, and people then get to taste, right? You give people the access to this rights and privileges that are in the kingdom. I mean, you introduce people to forgiveness. You introduce people to wholeness. You introduce people, right, who are hanging out in brokenness that come and find wholeness. And yeah, it's just like the power of the kingdom of heaven in you is massive, right? And there's an expectation that you would use what you have and the power and the connection you have to affect change, to cause things to be conformed to the way the kingdom of heaven functions. Yeah. It's just like you become kind of the access point. Wherever you go, you bring the power. Wherever you go, you're bringing that authority. You're the, Paul talks about, right? Like, he's like, we're ambassadors, as if God himself is making his appeal through us. Like when you're sent by the king or by your government as an ambassador, you go on his behalf. So whatever words you're speaking, they're from the perspective of the one who sent you, right? You're not talking about your own perspective. You're not talking about your own opinions. You're only talking about the opinions of your government, because that's why you go. You come to represent. And we're the representatives of the kingdom of heaven on earth. And so to the degree that we actually represent where we came from and where we belong is to the degree that God is represented, if you will. And so there is this expectation that we would represent the kingdom. Paul in 2 Timothy was the whole book of 2 Timothy is kind of like Paul encouraging and pushing Timothy into his responsibility and duties. And it seems like there might have been this fear of persecution and suffering because Paul refers to it a bunch of times. But anyways, he talks about, he's like, suffer with me like a good soldier does. He's like, a soldier doesn't get caught up in civilian affair because he's focused on pleasing his commanding officer. He's like a runner who runs a race only gets the prize if he runs according to the rules. And it's just like a soldier doesn't get all entangled up, right, with just like the mundane. It's like they're not really, if they're on a mission, they're not really thinking about like what's the next movie that we're going to go to, or what's this or that. The focus is on there's a mission, and so your whole attention goes to the accomplishing that mission. And I think this kind of comes back to that standard of living where knowing what it is that you're responsible for is massive, because if you have no idea that you actually are responsible, to realize your potential, to establish the kingdom. I mean, none of this is void of God's presence, right, or power, but it's just like we've got duties and responsibilities and we have potential, but God gave us our potential, but it's our responsibility to realize that. And it's like, if you don't know that, you could easily just kind of coast through life and just get sucked up in the mundane and the mediocre and the socially acceptable kind of stuff of this world. But there's a call to be focused. There's a call to be great. There's a call to live on purpose. And that call goes out to everyone, right? Nobody is void of value. Nobody's void of purpose, and nobody's void of a gift. They are called to develop, define, and refine and serve to the people around them. What do you guys think?
I think too, like, it's important to remember, like, through our faith, like, we will suffer. Like, I think a lot of times people are like, oh, like, once I accept the Lord, like, everything's going to be great. There's not going to be any obstacles. There's not going to be anything challenging. But God, I mean, in the Bible, he talks about how we will suffer and how we are supposed to run that race of perseverance, like, throughout that, and like how that suffering produces perseverance. And even just thinking about how, kind of what you were saying, how a soldier, like, he has a purpose, he has a mission, and he doesn't stop until that mission is fulfilled. And that's what we're doing on this earth. We are called to this mission, to Christ's mission, to his calling for our life, our purpose. And our goal in our life is to not stop until that mission is fulfilled, which is our entire life, until we die, just continuing to push forward, to persevere through it, throughout the trials, whether it be in your personal faith or whether it be people persecuting you. You're called to push through that race, and continue to fulfill his calling. But also too, like, in that verse, it was talking about how soldiers also, like, do things for their commander. Their commander might give them something to do, and God does that for us. He might put something on our heart of, oh, I want you to go start this. Oh, I want you to go there. And soldiers, without a doubt, will go and do it. And we too should be doing that in our life. We shouldn't be second guessing. Oh, that might be scary. Oh, I don't know if I could do that. I don't know if I'm truly called to being able to do that. But instead, we should have that level of trust as we would a soldier to his commander to go wherever it is he's calling us, or to whatever he is calling us to do.
Yeah. No, that's real good. Yeah, because I was thinking about that just in the terms of, like, being an ambassador or just being a representative, where it's like when you're going on the behalf of somebody else, you can almost, like, divorce yourself from rejection, right? Because you're being sent to accomplish something. So whether it's like to go to talk to somebody, you just think about like an ambassador, right? You're going to make public relations. You're talking to other people of influence who are in charge of all kinds of things. And so you're trying to get the agenda. You're trying to get your agenda kind of accomplished that you have. And so you're not going to just take no for an answer. You're not just going to easily walk away, because this isn't about you. This is about, like, you were sent there on purpose. So there's a responsibility and a duty, and there's like a weight. So it's like you're not gonna go back empty-handed. Like, no, you're a person of value, right? And you were sent on purpose because you're entrusted to accomplish this task. So yeah, it's like, I'm not saying I do this very well at all, but I was just thinking about that concept where it is kind of fun when you think about, if I'm sent, there's something to be accomplished, which means it can be accomplished. So it really doesn't matter what it looks like, because it could look like a door closed. It could look like a no, but it's just like, how willing are you to get the result, right? We were talking about this the other day, this concept of results. People are like, well, it's all about the journey. But I don't know if it's not just all about the journey. It's about the results, because Jesus said, hey, I came here to do the will of the one who sent me. And then on the cross, he said, the work is done, right? He came on purpose with a purpose and didn't leave until that purpose was fulfilled, right? If you look at the life of Paul, homeboy was on a mission. He's like, no, freaking, I'm compelled. You couldn't stop me even if you tried, right? And he's like, I'm not. And you know, people are like, oh, don't have big goals. Freaking Paul was after. He said, I'm going to go reach all of the Gentiles. Gentiles was the majority of the world, right? So we're talking about Jews, and everybody else is a Gentile. So there was a lot more Gentiles than there were Jews. And Paul's like, I'm going to go reach all of them because this was my mission. So you want to talk about massive goals and just a buttload of action. This is the kingdom of heaven. I just like, this is legit. Like, this is like no holds bar. This is what I'm after. I'm not going to stop it until I get it. You know, people are like, oh, well, I'm just tired and, you know, I just need a rest. He's like, no, like you don't need a It comes from a totally different perspective, but it's just like there's a level, there's a high level, there's a high standard that's achievable. It's not pretend. It comes from a perspective and an understanding of who we are, why we are, and where we're going, what we're called to do, and then we give ourselves wholly to it, right? Paul talks to Timothy, and he's like, he's talking about like in 1 Timothy, he's talking about like discharging all the duties, right, of his responsibilities, his gifts. He's like, you know, dedicate yourself to the public reading of Scripture, to teaching and preaching, and a few other things. But he's like, give yourself wholly to them. Like, this is the thing you give your life to, right? Like, a lot of, like, it's easy just to get caught up in the mundane where you give your life to a job and you give your life to just getting by or just taking care of your family. It's not good enough to just take care of your family, and it's not good enough to just work a job. You are made for more than that. There's a deeper call, and that's the dissatisfaction we feel is because there's something greater to tap into. And it's only by tapping into it and getting after it that you're ever going to live in that fulfillment, because we were called to something bigger, called to something greater. And there is this expectation that we would accomplish it. And there will be a time where accountability will be a real thing. But it's like, it doesn't have to take you by surprise, and it doesn't have to scare you at all, right? Paul's like, dude, I ran the race. I kept the faith. I fought the fight. And now waiting for me is a crown of life. Mm-hmm. It's like that these are the people we need to become like. We need to emulate. These are the people. These are the missions. These are like the drive that we need to get into, man. Like back to that podcast with Chris Valton, you know, he was talking about how he wanted, I don't know. He was just praying and asking God for like a new relationship with somebody who was, I don't know if it had more money than him or what it was specifically. But it ended up being, he met this guy and, who was like a billionaire a couple times, lost it a couple times, was gaining it back. And, but this guy he thought a lot bigger, right? He would like, he proposed them this crazy idea, this guy, to Chris and his team. He was like, hey, what if we bought like one of like the largest, TV stations and what if you guys ran it? And, you know, he's like, I know a few of these people who would throw down like millions of dollars, right, to be able to buy this thing. I think we could put this deal together and do it. And it's just like this totally crazier level of thinking of like possibility of like, hey, what if we did this and here's what it would do and here's how it would impact this and that. And it's just like, but just this idea of getting around people who are doing big things, right? Because I went to a thing and this guy he kept saying over and over, he's like, birds of a feather flock together, right? And it's true, right? I mean, over and over people say, it's like, show me your 5 closest friends and I can show you, you know, what your life will be like. You know, it's like you kind of, the people you continue to hang out with, which whatever, you kind of come to like an equilibrium of like, you probably make about the same amount of money. You got the kind of similar stuff. It's just like everything's kind of the same. Similarly, it's like if you hang out with people who are broke and you're broke and then everybody's still broke and because you're all still just hanging out doing the same things that produce the same results, right? So to get new results, you need to get into a new environment. You got to do some different things, learn some new information. And so just this idea of there's people who are doing crazy things. And not only that, man, it's freaking, there's a lot of people who don't believe in God who are freaking leading the world, who are leading the world in inventions and innovations and business and education and government, right? And we, the people who are connected to the God who created all things, my good peoples, we should have a little bit of the upper hand. But I think it takes a certain kind of perspective, because you gotta kind of give your whole self to it. If you want to become an expert, if you want to become a leader, you kind of got to give your whole self, which I'm looking in the mirror right now, right? Like you gotta give your whole self to it. I mean, that high standard. But freaking what if, what if we're the generation that freaking rises to purpose, rises to mission, rises to identity? We're the people who shine a light so big, so bright that it can be seen from the nations. The nations are drawn to us, and they see what we're doing, and their response is to glorify God. It's just like, what if because of what we do, we affect the coming of Jesus because of the amount of action that we take, the amount of dreams we turn into reality, the amount of belief we hold of what is possible and what should be. We don't get caught up in what is. We get stuck in what should be, and then we do whatever it takes to turn it into a reality. It's just like, what if we became the tipping point? It's possible. But there's some things we're going to have to ditch in our self-image and our ideas of who we think and God is and isn't, and who we think we are and we're not. But I tell you what, man, there's this expectation that we could affect so much change that we could literally usher in the coming of Jesus. And I say that's pretty legit.
It's pretty cool.
Don't nobody want to get to the end of their life and be like, frick. It's too late, man. It's too late to get to the end of your life and be like, you don't want to get it then. If you get it then, it's too late. You want to get it now and get into it.
Yeah, I think sometimes we just need to change our perspective. I think a lot of times we're always having those if only statements of, if only I had more time, if only I had more money, if only I had more resources, and start thinking of what if? What if I did this? What if I did that? Because when we have that change, then we start to innovate. Then we start to get excited and filled, rather than with fear and doubt, with hope. And I think once we have that perspective, then that's when that change happens. That's when we find those people and say, hey, let's go do this. Yeah. Rather than, oh, I'm going to sit at home and think about it and wish I did it.
Sure.
I think that's when you think about living from a place of lack instead of like we have everything we need. Maybe you don't have all the money in the world, but that doesn't limit you from what you can accomplish. And just that concept of, that you can get after it, like that shift of perspective, and even that awareness. Like, I don't know, James was telling the kids this story, and I don't even remember where he heard it, but about this fisherman that was out there catching fish, and he kept throwing back these big fish. And it was like this kid on the shore was watching, and when he finally came in, he's like, why are you throwing all those fish back? He's like, well, my frying pan at home is only so big, so I can't cook the big fish. I can only cook the small fish. But it was like such limited thinking that's like, oh, obviously you could cut the fish. Like, you don't have to have the right size fish for your frying pan. And so just that awareness of, even just that shift of perspective, because I think sometimes your eyes have to be open to what you truly are capable of, or what you really can get after. And just that concept that, it might not look like what you thought at first, or it might not seem as easy as you thought, but like they're just the awareness that there's another way to get into it, or there's the ability to, push through when maybe the answer doesn't seem super clear, but But yeah, that was just like, obviously from the outside, that's like, why in the world would you do that? Like, he wasted his whole day throwing back these really good big fish. It's just that awareness. Cause like what you aren't aware of, you literally can't see. And just being able to even help other people become aware of maybe where that perspective is shifted, and they're living from that place of lack, or living from, a place of low capacity, when really that can be stretched and pushed and expanded.
Yeah. The what ifs, right? You want to stay away from the yeah buts, but the what ifs, right? The what ifs is a statement of possibilities. It's a statement of potentials. What could be, what should be. Come on, somebody. The yeah buts, right? The yeah, but I don't got those gifts. Yeah, but there's other people doing it. Yeah, but there, 100 other people are doing that program. And yeah, they said no, they already have somebody. Yeah. What if? What if when they said, yeah, I already got somebody, you said, bro, I'm 10 times whatever the frick they're doing. Even though you have no idea what they're doing. I'm just saying, but so what? It's just like, what if you hard sell it and you're just like, no, freaking you say no you're making an assumption that what I have is inferior to what they're doing. And what I have is 10 times more than what they're doing. It's just like, what if we were so freaking sold on who we are and what we're capable of and who called us and made us so freaking capable, and who is backing us and just freaking ready. Like it's just like, who's freaking gonna go? Who's gonna go? He's just waiting for somebody to go. What if you get into it, man, and we go all in? I mean, what else are you gonna do with your life? Freaking crap. I mean,
Nothing.
you just sit, look, again, I'm talking to myself in the mirror. I mean, you just sit back and you dream and you live in misery because you're not doing the things you want to do. It costs, man. There's a cost. There's a cost to doing nothing. And there's likewise a cost to taking action. There's a cost to realizing your potential. There's a cost to realizing your purpose. But anyway you slice it, man, you got to pay the piper.
It's going to cost you something either way. Yeah.
One will cost too much and you won't be able to pay for it in the end. But still, it still costs in the meantime because you're just in such dissatisfaction, right? This is why people get depressed. They don't get depressed because I don't know, like it's not like necessarily that you need all this medication. It's more like this inactivity and this lack of vision and purpose and meaning for your life. And this inactivity, man, that junk will tear you up. Because that's not function. That's malfunction, because we were created to cause this world to look like the kingdom of heaven. That people think, feel, and act like God thinks, feels, and acts. Like people wouldn't think thoughts that God doesn't think. People wouldn't look at themselves and think a thought that was different than what God thought. Yeah. Just saying. There's this expectation of greatness. And man, if we ponied up, if we saddled up the ponies, grabbed a couple blocks of Velveeta cheese, maybe some shredded,
a little bit of both,
maybe some mozzarella, maybe some Mexican blend.
Yep.
My good peoples, we could hi-ho ourselves right into the world that we dream about every day. If not us, then freaking who? And if not when, my good peoples, freaking when. As long as it's called now, then it's freaking time to ride. My good peoples, until next time, peace.